Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. The struggle is to be human, and no one understood that more and experienced it more than the slaves of the pre-Civil War era. I'm Professor Farsington, and today we'll be looking into the plight of Jacob D. Green. He was a Kentuckian slave who was born into slavery. Together, along with a panel of experts, we'll come to know what hardships these slaves truly experienced.
Jacob D. Green, born on August 24, 1813, was a runaway slave from Kentucky. His life was filled with hard tasks and grueling work that lasted for almost all hours of the day. He was born a slave and worked at around 8 years old. He was born into slavery on a large plantation owned by Judge Charles Earl in Queen Anne's County, Maryland. J.D. always thought about running away, and he made multiple attempts at doing so. At one point, he stole potatoes and got caught. He took a note from the man who caught him and was told to take it to his master.
He worked as an errand boy and carried water back and forth from the water pumps into the house. J.D. was a troubled boy who always acted out or got into trouble. Even as a child, he was beaten and whipped for small mistakes that he had made. He gave it to his friend Dick, and Dick ended up getting whipped for it. J.D. may have escaped that time, but he was whipped many other times for other things he had done.
Despite this, he went back there a couple of other times after that as well. The next morning, the overseer found the horses muddy and knew one of the slaves had taken them out last night. He questioned the slaves, but no one said anything to the overseer.
J.D. became very depressed because of his slavery. He attempted to hang himself in the barn, but he ended up stopping himself from doing it. The overseer's wife saw him stepping down and forced him back into the noose.
He always questioned the reason why he was a slave, and the white people made him that way. He thought it would be better to die than to have to live the life of a slave. Through all his pain and sorrow, he always taught to put his trust in his faith and that God would always be there for him.
This was his one true pleasure in life, and although it may have been a small pleasure, he went to church every Sunday and celebrated it.
When J.D. was a teenager, he decided that he wanted to go to a dance.
He snuck out to a local meeting house where other slaves went to dance and have a good time. He ended up humiliating himself because the flap in the back of his pants fell and exposed his behind. He went home embarrassed.
J.D. tried to escape many times. The first time he collected $124 from selling poultry from the barn. He tried to escape but climbed over a large wall and landed on one of the guards. The guard frantically ran away and dropped his gun. He worked in Tennessee for 3 years and was going to New Orleans, but he escaped. He went to a free slave and was helped into a shipping yard.
J.D. was forced to marry a girl named Jane, and they became very close afterwards. Jane even had a baby, but it was only after they'd been married for 5 months. She said that it was because the overseer had been the one to impregnate her. Jane was then sold off at a slave auction, which is the reason behind J.D.'s first attempted escape.
He then escaped again and rode on horseback up to Baltimore. He abandoned his horse and stationed himself in the woods where he caught barn fowl from nearby farms. On his way to the north, he was stopped many times and forced to run, hide, and even fight back. He was a coachman and had a horse and carriage. While bringing a young woman to a destination, J.D. decided to escape and tied the woman to a tree. He then took the carriage off and then rode the horse to Lexington. He then made his way back up to Louisville.
He went to Utica but was found by his old master. He was then brought to Cleveland and put in jail. He then got sent to Louisville, Kentucky, and was put up for auction again. He was sold to Mr. Wheelbanks. In conclusion, Jacob D. Green had undergone many hard times, especially while being a slave. Times were always hard for slaves, unfortunately, but he sometimes made the best of his life, while trying to survive and stay safe. He tried hiding and escaping many times to get away from his horrid lifestyle. He was forced to complete many unpleasant tasks. He was even forced into marriage. Jacob Green was very lucky to have escaped this messy situation. He snuck around and took food and money for survival. He finally earned his freedom in Canada, where a new life began for him.